There is a lot of confusion surrounding the topic of turning tendencies, beginning with the common mistake of referring to them as left turning tendencies. In reality, all 5 of the turning tendencies, and yes, there are 5, not just the 4 commonly pulled from the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge, will turn the aircraft to the left or the right, depending on how they are applied. Understanding how and when these tendencies will impact the aircraft can be key to avoiding unpleasant surprises and maintaining safety of flight. So, let's dispel some of the misunderstandings that surround this topic by taking a closer look at what is really going on. Turning tendencies occur as a result of spinning a propeller to create thrust. These tendencies manifest in 5 distinct ways that can be remembered with the acronym PAST-G, which stands for P factor, accelerated slipstream, spiraling slipstream, torque reaction, and gyroscopic action. Today, we will explore the effects of spiraling slipstream. Spiraling slipstream is the least understood turning tendency. This is because it was born, named, and raised in ignorance. Given this pedigree, it is no wonder that most pilots are a bit confused by this nebulous subject. To help break down the misconceptions, let's take a look at how we got here. Until 1902, powered flight was the impossible dream that few believed could be accomplished. Even after it was achieved, recognition of the potential of flight was fleeting, and it was viewed as little more than entertainment for nearly 2 decades. World War I ushered in the first serious mass production and application of the airplane, but it was still a dangerous and poorly understood field. The next leap forward for aviation happened a couple of decades later, when yet another world war broke out. This provided an environment that was highly conducive to innovation because so much was at stake. In this environment, bigger, faster, and more powerful aircraft were being produced as fast as possible, and learning how they worked was a job that the pilot was literally performing on the fly in most cases. This set the stage perfectly for the birth of many misconceptions, arguably the most enduring of which was spiraling slipstream. As more powerful engines were invented and used with propellers of increasing size, pilots noticed that turning tendencies became increasingly powerful. One aircraft that was particularly infamous for this and was said to be able to flip a house was the F-4U Corsair. While trying to understand why the aircraft behaved the way it did, pilots often observed a spiral forming as the aircraft took off. It was reasoned that as the spiral traveled aft, it could hit the vertical stabilizer and cause some of the left yawing tendencies that they were trying to understand. This is the birth of the spiraling slipstream. The only problem is, they were wrong. To start, the phenomena observed in this picture, and many others like it, is not a visualization of prop wash spiraling around the fuselage. Rather, it is a visualization of the effective pitch of the propeller. For more information on effective pitch, please see my video on propeller systems. As the propeller rotates, the tip of the propeller can approach the speed of sound. This can cause contrails to form, especially in humid environments found in carrier operations. The contrails form in a spiral because the path of the propeller tip is moving forward in a spiral. However, this does not mean that the prop wash is spiraling around the fuselage. In fact, spiraling slipstream is a poor name for this phenomena because spiraling slipstream does not spiral. To understand this, let's take a closer look. As an object moves through the air, it impacts air molecules. These collisions transfer energy to the air molecule and slow the object. This transfer of energy is called parasite drag. Parasite drag consumes a lot of energy. So airfoils, like propellers, are designed to minimize this cost and redirect airflow into lift. This means that the rotation the prop wash receives from a rotating propeller is negligible. Adjustable pitch propellers can be rotated to create enough drag to spiral the slipstream. However, this feathering of the propeller demands so much extra energy from the engine that the engine will fail before creating sufficient energy to successfully spiral the slipstream. Thus, the theory that the propeller creates a rotating air mass swirling around the fuselage is a physical impossibility. Despite the fact that the propeller is incapable of spiraling the slipstream, let's take a look at what would happen if we designed an aircraft with a large enough engine and a propeller that was inefficient enough to create a slipstream that spirals around the airframe. As the air spiraled rearward, it would first impact the wings of the aircraft, pushing on the lower surface of the left wing and the upper surface of the right wing. This would produce a strong right rolling tendency. Similarly, as the spiral moves rearward, it would impact the lower surface of the left horizontal stabilizer and the upper surface of the right horizontal stabilizer. The stabilizers have less surface area to act on than the wings, and the rotation of the airflow would have been slowed by the journey to them, but they would still add strength to the right rolling tendency created. Additionally, the spiral would impact the left side of the vertical stabilizer, which would create a left yaw. This left yawing tendency would only account for approximately a mere 14% of the force generated. Yet, it has been presented as a primary force in the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge, along with a misleading picture of a jet of air skillfully maneuvering its way around all obstacles and proceeding directly into the vertical stabilizer. In reality, this interaction would be a bit more complicated. In recent revisions, the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge has changed the name of this theory to the corkscrew effect, and even recognized that there would be a right roll induced. However, the information is still incomplete and misleading. As if all of this were not enough to dispel the myth of the spiral, the last and most important evidence to consider is the real-world observations that come from the actual airflow around the aircraft. Airflow can be observed by its effects on the world around it. The effects of the prop wash on things placed behind it, wind tunnel tests, and flow indicators attached to the fuselage of the aircraft all show that the slipstream proceeds directly from the front to the aft with no appreciable rotation. One of the easiest ways to observe this is to watch airflow as an aircraft passes through visible moisture. We clearly see the vortices created by the wingtips. But where's the center spiral from the corkscrew effect? It doesn't exist because the spiraling slipstream does not spiral. However, this does not mean that the spiraling slipstream is not still a relevant turning tendency. So why does the slipstream produce a turning tendency? In previous presentations, I have already explained when and how the descending blade creates more force than the ascending blade. I have also explained how this p-factor asymmetrically accelerates the airstream. If you have not already, please watch these presentations to obtain the required background information. Spiraling slipstream, while not actually spiraling, is asymmetrically accelerated, which causes a velocity difference between the right and left side of the aircraft. As stated in Bernoulli's principle, when airflow is accelerated, its pressure decreases. The relative high pressure on the left side of the aircraft then pushes on the fuselage as it tries to move towards the low pressure. This results in the slipstream moving to the right. As the slipstream travels aft, the effects of the slipstream increase because it is obtaining a larger arm. Additionally, as the slipstream encounters the vertical stabilizer, the surface area it contacts dramatically increases, causing a noticeable left yaw to occur. As with all p-factor induced turning tendencies, the direction is reversed on aircraft that are equipped with counter-rotating engines. Multi-engine aircraft experience the effects of spiraling slipstream as well, as the spiraling slipstream of the left engine travels into the vertical stabilizer. This also adds to the airflow over the rudder and is one of the critical engine factors, but that's a topic for another day. So remember that spiraling slipstream doesn't spiral. Rather, when P factor is generated, airflow is asymmetrically accelerated over the wings, which causes a pressure differential to form. This deflects the prop wash into the vertical stabilizer and causes a left yawing tendency to occur. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.